Hi there, Andre here from Peak Motorcycles. I'm in the Peak District today, as you can tell. That on the ground behind me and probably settling on my head is indeed snow, so it's not really a great day to go for a test ride. However, I understand that over in Chesterfield and Clay Cross that there are blue skies, albeit a little bit cold. So I'm going to go up and test ride the new BSA Gold Star at Clay Cross Kawasaki. So these are the first real bikes, the production bikes that have come into the country. So the first lot have all gone to dealers for demo rides, and then the first customer bikes I think are going to be coming in the new year. So yeah, it's a bike that I've seen a lot about. They were at the Motorcycle Live show last year, and there's quite a buzz about it. Then things kind of got delayed a bit, but it's great to see the bikes finally coming through. So I'm going to head up there. Hopefully it doesn't snow all the way. I am going to cheat because the road through Edale is covered in snow and ice. So I'm going to drive up in the car, and hopefully by the time I get up to Clay Cross, the roads will be clear and I can have a good go at the test ride, albeit a little bit cold. So I'm here, made it up to Clay Cross Kawasaki. As you can see, it's got blue skies now. It's really glorious. You can also see over my shoulder that there's still rather a lot of frost and even maybe a bit of light snow on the road. I think I've picked my route that I can ride, so I'm going to go out of Chesterfield, down the A619, down to the Baslow roundabout, then back up to Owler Bar, and then back on the Chesterfield bypass. So that should give me a chance to ride some A roads through some town riding, dual carriageway. I mean, today it's barely above freezing. It's about 1 Celsius in the sunshine, and it's about -1 where it isn't. So around about 32 Fahrenheit for those of you that do work in Fahrenheit. Where the bike is now, it's actually in the shadow. So I'm just going to give you a very, very quick look. But what I'll do is I'll stop somewhere when I'm out and about, and I'm going to do it as a separate video, but I'll give you a really close look up at everything on the bike. I'm going to record everything in 4K, so hopefully you can pick out some of the details. I know that's what some of you are really interested in. So yeah, here it is. I'll give you a look at the bike. So here we have it. This is one of the first real sort of production models of the new BSA Gold Star. So if you've seen this at the show, or the shows that are around, then you'll have seen the pre-production models. But this one is actually one that I can take out and ride on the road. As I said, it's in the shadow at the moment, so I'm not going to show you too much about it here. It's more just really to show you what it's like before I set off, because I think there's a lot of salt on the roads and there's a good chance that it's all going to get quite mucky while I'm out. But nevertheless, I will stop when I find somewhere that has a lay-by, hopefully that isn't covered in too much snow, and I'll give you a proper close-up look at the bike. Right then, I'll go and get my cold weather gear on. So then here we go. So this is my first startup on the production version of the new BSA Gold Star. So just before I do that, I'm just going to have a quick look around. You've probably seen this on the show videos before, but maybe not the actual final version. So it's nice to see that they've actually got the clocks with that reverse sweep, or I think it's not a pure reverse sweep, but you know, the ones that come down around the bottom. What I didn't really pay attention to before was they've got this little readout up there, which even though it seems quite a long way away from where I'm sitting, I think it actually looks quite clear when the ignition's turned on. Even just that little sweep of the needles as it goes up is quite a nice look. Got the ABS light flashing because I haven't started up yet. Not a huge fan of the mirrors, but then again, mirrors are an easy thing to change, and at least they are symmetrical. They're both in the middle of the bars on both sides, unlike a few of the bikes I've ridden recently. Other than that, in here you can just about see it is the USB pod, which has got a USB-C and a USB-A socket, and yeah, I'll fire it up and give it a go. So that's just a really easy start. I don't know if you can see this bike is bang on 300 miles. It's quite a small odometer readout, but even with my failing eyesight, where I can't read things really close to me, I can read that fairly easily. So it's just a normal conventional 5-speed box. 1 down, 4 up. Oops. Let's come out through here. So very first thoughts. It is really quiet. It feels quite easy to ride, if that makes sense. It just feels very light. The weight's very low down. It does putter along a bit. It's going to be a bit careful just coming around here. If you can see, there is still a bit of snow and frost on the road. So, oh yeah, this looks a lot better for getting down. So I'm going to give you a brief description of the route. So I'm going to head out of here. For those of you who know around here, there's CMC over the road, and this road takes me up into Chesterfield. So this is going to be my town riding bit. I'm expecting there's going to be some traffic as I come up through here. So I'll see how nimble it is for getting around that, and then we'll head out into the countryside. So I think this bike has been run in, given that it's up to 300 miles. and it certainly feels very smooth. You know, with a big single, sometimes you think it's just going to thump along and just vibrate you. And I think it's got a counterbalancer on it, and this actually does feel very smooth. The gearbox as well is very light. That's just clicking up, I guess, into third. There's no gear indicator, so, and it seems to be quite tractable in any gear. I think that must be up to third, and off it goes. So actually, this feels very easy to ride. I know I said that just when I got it and rode out of the dealership, and it might be a slightly odd thing to say, but sometimes you get on a bike and you can really feel the weight of it underneath you, and this I can't. Looking down at the GoPro that I've got there on the handlebars, I can see that is vibrating a bit, but I'm not feeling that through my hands. Now I do have my big Alpine Stars winter gloves on. This bike doesn't have heated grips, and frankly when it's almost freezing here in the UK, I think you could really do with it. Nevertheless, I will get by for today with all my winter gear. So I'm just coming up and into Chesterfield now, and there's quite a lot of traffic, so I thought I'd just try and ride around some of it. And yeah, because it feels like quite a light bike. I mean, I know it isn't a light bike, but I guess all the weight's low down and it seems to be quite low to the ground. So actually riding as I am now, you know, filtering past traffic, which is legal here in the UK, does seem to be pretty easy to do. You know, I don't really have any concerns over the weight of the bike or the balance of it. It certainly feels quite narrow. You know, there's not a huge amount of space to be filtering past all this standing traffic that's waiting for the lights. But yeah, it certainly feels like there's plenty of room for me to fit the bike through. Maybe this is a little bit tighter, but you know what, even that, as long as I can avoid that wing mirror, I think we should be all good. Yeah, no bother at all. If you're thinking about one of these bikes maybe for riding around a city, I think that would be ideal. You know, you don't want anything too wide if you're going to be having to get around a lot of traffic. So now I'm just heading out of Chesterfield, just up into a 40-mile-an-hour area, and then we're going to head out to the Peak District. So yeah, my first thoughts about riding it around is that it is just a really easy bike to ride. There's a fair bit of torque there down low. There's no you know, terrifying power if you just open the throttle too much, but then again you wouldn't expect it on a bike with, I think it's 45 brake horsepower, something like that. So that is in top gear at 40 miles an hour, opening the throttle all the way, and you can see that's creeping up. That's to 50, that's to 60, and we're only doing 3,500 revs, so there is a long way to go still on that gearbox. I mean, I don't think I get all the way up to 10, but if you're doing the speed limit between 3,000 and 4,000 RPM, I think for what this bike is mostly going to be used for, I think that is more than enough. So in fact I can just sit there at 60. It's very peaceful, there's very little vibration that's coming off the motor there. Yeah, and I think that's kind of what this bike is for, right? You're not going to take it and track it. It's not a sports bike, it's not supposed to be, it's an upright, sort of classic looking motorcycle. And yeah, I know they're kind of heavy. 200 kilos seems to be the norm these days for nearly every bike, so maybe even that's not as much of a problem as it used to be. But it is definitely a very easy bike to ride. And other than the fact it's bitterly cold and I'm missing my heated grips, maybe I should get some heated gloves or something. Yeah, this is fine. Yeah, I really wasn't sure what it was going to be like. It's almost like there'd been so much hype, so much history, so much legacy around about these bikes. You know, a number of people had seen them and said, oh, you know, it's not the same as the old ones, and they're absolutely right, of course, it isn't. But it's modern. It looks sort of old school, but it just feels like a modern bike. The suspension in particular, I'm very impressed with. So comparing this to the Royal Enfield 650 Interceptor, which I have ridden, I found that to be, you know, the suspension very basic. I found that even on little bumps in the road, I pick up every single one of them through my backside, and I haven't noticed anything similar with this. It's not to say that it's not fancy, you know, there's no adjustment on the forks, I think, and there's probably preload for the rear, but I'll have a look at that properly when I stop. But over these Peak District roads where, you know, there's a fair bit of maintenance that happens to the roads over time, I'm really not feeling any, you know, it doesn't feel cheap in quite the same way as the Interceptor 650 suspension did. Now I know that these are easy things to fix, and I know several people that have got a 650 twin Interceptor and they just changed out the rear shocks, and some of them did the fork conversion as well, and it made such a huge difference. But nevertheless, for this as it comes, you know, straight from the dealer, is a pleasant surprise. The other thing is, I've just been pottering up here, so I'm behind this car towing a trailer, so I'm not really pushing on, but the fact I've just been able to leave it in fourth and not really pay any attention to it and just, you know, keep on plugging away, is also testament to the torque on that engine. I mean, that's 2,000 RPM. That was a pull up the hill, now heading downhill, down towards Beeley and down towards Chatsworth. And yeah, sometimes I thought, you know, if you've got an engine that's a bit down on power, maybe you have to work the gearbox a lot more. And I'm sure you can with this, but you don't have to. There's enough torque even to pull up a hill on an A road in fourth without really paying much attention, and you can just think about riding. This bike is, I think, Euro 5 compliance, and one thing I have noticed on some Euro 5 bikes is the fueling. So especially when you're off the throttle, I think one of the requirements is they actually shut the fuel off, so you can actually get, it's a little bit bumpy, a little bit rough. A lot of the ECUs are locked down. If you've ever ridden a CRF 300 low speed, you'll know exactly what I mean, and it can be a little bit jumpy almost. I know that in the rest of the world you can get an ECU mod which corrects for that, but in the UK and Europe we don't have that luxury. This doesn't feel like that at all. Just coming down the hill there, I just, you know, still in fourth gear, just dropped it down to third, completely off the throttle, just using the engine braking, and it really was super smooth, which is a lovely surprise. Yeah, absolutely delighted. Right then, now a fun road. So this is the A621 heading back up towards Owler and Sheffield, so hopefully there's a bit less traffic on here. I can actually have a bit more of a go with the bike and see what it's like. You can see we're just passing the national speed limit sign, so off we go. So it's a 60 limit coming up here. That's still in top gear, opening the throttle, and up we go. Hit 60, no problem. Sorry, it's third gear even. That hit 60, no problem at all. Still pulling in fourth, up the hill. Feels very, very stable. There's no wobble. There's nothing, not that you really expect that at these sorts of speeds, but it just feels very, very planted. So I've actually had a chance to open the bike up a little bit on these country lanes. It's just a really nice place to be. The handling is, you know, it's sharp enough. I mean, it's never going to be, you know, super sharp, but for what it is, and you know, I think people are going to use this just for a cruise around, probably on roads not too dissimilar from this. And it really is an absolute pleasure. You don't have to work it hard. Yeah, I think certainly for some of the smaller capacity bikes I've ridden lately, you do have to work them to get the most out of them, which is engaging in its own. You know, it's quite a fun thing to have to do. But again, if you also just want to be able to take this bike and cruise on it, as I am doing here, then it's very easy to do. What I am feeling is that my fingers are getting really, really cold now, so I think I'm going to go and find a lay-by, and then I'll get off the bike and just give you a quick walk around and give you a very, very close look. Now I'm going to do the close look in a separate video, simply because I think this is already going to be long enough and I'm probably talking way, way, way too much. But yeah, I'll pull over and you can have a close look at the bike. So one thing I'm going to try is, just over here there is a straight section of road where I think I can open it up in relative safety. So I shall do that and just see what the acceleration's like. I haven't had the need to overtake anything really today, and to be honest, with this amount of snow and ice around, I'm not really in the mood. But it'd be interesting to see what it does. And it's that torque, you know, even from that gear, relatively low down, 3,000 RPM, and it does chug a little bit, but it's a sound rather than you know, any vibration that comes with it. I'm just looking in the mirrors because sometimes I guess that's a good telltale for how much a bike is vibrating, and they seem to be pretty solid. It'll be interesting to see what it's like on a dual carriageway when I get it up to 70. But let me put it in top gear. There we go. So again, top gear from 40. If I just open it up, okay, that is not strong, but it does pick up and it does go. That's 40 miles an hour in third gear. There is a slight downhill here, which does help. But right, off we go, full throttle in third, and that's 40, 50, 60 without any bother at all. So yeah, that really is quite fun. Right then, let me find this lay-by. In fact, I'll probably stop there coming the other way, park it up on the snow and give you a proper look around. So that was fun. I mean, it is bitterly, bitterly cold. I don't know if you can see the landscape behind me, but it's absolutely freezing. I can barely feel my fingers at the moment, but it's been fun. We've got blue skies, and I would have picked a quieter place to stop, except all the side roads are completely covered with snow and ice. So I'm going to have to make do with this A road instead, and I'm just going to pause whenever a car comes past, so hopefully the audio works. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's just really, really smooth. For a big single, I thought it was just going to thump along, and it really doesn't. The gearbox I thought might be a bit disappointing, and actually it was fine. It's really, really light. The clutch is really light. It just clicks in and out of the gears. Haven't found a single false neutral yet, which you can't say for every bike these days. And the instruments are clear. I did wonder whether those backlit orange numbers would be a little bit small, but actually I think they're fine. You know, for my ailing eyesight as I get older, it was perfectly fine. The clocks are very clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a look around the bike. I'm just going to do a very quick one, which will go in the riding video, and then I'm going to do a much longer one where I'll try and look at every single bit of the bike in glorious 4K for those of you who don't really care what I think about riding it, but do want to see the bike up close. This is a very quick look at the new BSA Gold Star. So I'm going to do a longer video where I show you everything up close, but for now this is just a very quick look along the bike that I've been riding while out on this test ride. It does have quite a lot of salt and stuff on it, unfortunately, because it's with the roads being as icy as they are, everything's been gritted. But you know, the fit and finish on it does seem to be, you know, pretty good. You know, I'm looking at, so you know, sometimes the frame paint can be a little thin in places, but this all looks good. And the engine casing, you know, there's a few pieces that have been bolted on like that. I guess that's an alloy cover, which looks rather good. The guns in there, I think that is just a decal, but again, it looks fine. Yeah, the exhaust look all right. I know that not everyone particularly likes that radiator, but you know, it needs to be there, I guess, for this being a modern bike. The headlamp there, which is just a conventional bulb, shame it's not an LED. On this side, just give you another look in here. I'm not a huge fan of that horn, but you know, I'm being picky now. Things like the gear shift is very easy to reach and is nicely made, and we've got the pillion pegs at the back. Those rear shocks and the ABS disc and those little Brembo calipers. Come around the back, some nice little indicators. You know, quite often indicators on bikes like this, I don't know, they seem to be very much an afterthought, but those seem to be very fitting with the rest of the bike. I'll just come up and over the seat. This little BSA logo on the back there. One of those bands which I know some people either love or hate. It's the first thing that some people take off the bike. Coming up and over the tank with that stripe, we've got the BSA fuel cap there. It is a locking fuel cap. There's me just turning it thinking it's going to do something else. Put that back where it was. And then just coming up, bar end weights, hand grips, mirrors, which I think look a little bit cheap. The other controls look look nice enough. So I've got my GoPro there, but it is. I'm not going to take it off because my hands are too cold. Look at the dash. That's the readout with the warning lights, which looks very subtle. It's not illuminated. And then we have the front brake reservoir and brake lever. And yeah, all in all, I know that's a very quick look around, but it's freezing cold here. So I'm going to do my other longer video looking at it. If you want to see everything close up, check there. Otherwise, I'm going to get back on the road. Time to crack on. Getting really cold. Starts really easy on the button. Revved up a bit high. And there it goes, dropping back down again. I wonder if that's a temperature thing. Right, onwards. So after a slightly longer stop than was planned, I'm now going to crack on and head back. So as part of this drive back, I'm just going to see what it's like to ride this bike a dual carriageway, just to see what it's like on a 70-mile-an-hour limit. One thing I've noticed is that there isn't as much engine braking as I thought there would have been. So I think I was in perhaps 4th gear coming down this hill, and it was more or less just running away with itself. So I thought, you know, I'd drop it down to 3rd like that, and yeah, it slows down a little bit, but it's still, yeah, it's not a huge amount. I thought maybe from a big single that would be a bit more prominent. So I'm just coming up to the Chesterfield bypass, which is a dual carriageway. I'll wind it up to speed. I have noticed that all my GoPro batteries, despite having changed them fairly recently, are all showing almost empty, and I think that's just the cold, because I think it must be very close to freezing, but hopefully it lasts long enough to just get a little bit of recording done. And then I think the next bit after that will be back at the Clay Cross Kawasaki, the BSA dealer. Right then, here we go. Dual carriageway. So this has got 7.5 miles, or I can wind it up to 7. So
So the battery is very much on its last legs, but just to let you know, it very easily gets up to 70, and it seems to go better in this cold weather than my GoPro does. So I don't think I can tell you a great deal other than, you know, there's some buffeting. It's bitterly cold. I didn't really expect anything different. This bike doesn't have a screen, so at 70 miles an hour in freezing temperatures it is going to get quite cold, but nevertheless it certainly cruises at 70 very, very easily. And yeah, I'm quite pleased with how that behaves. To do 70 miles an hour is about 5,000 RPM. I'm just having to do this in little bits because the battery keeps dying in the GoPro, but actually it's a fairly comfortable bike. It certainly feels very stable at speed. No concerns at all about being able to easily hold 70, but you'd expect nothing less from a 650. So if I just open it up in that, I think it's third, as you get up above 6,000 RPM you do feel a little bit of a buzz, not that you really need to, because there are, I think, 2 more gears. That was even in second. So yeah, when you get up the rev range, certainly this sort of 5, 6, 7,000 RPM, there's definitely a buzz that's going on there, but actually I've managed to do most of the ride with enough acceleration, enough fun below that. So just riding this last bit, I've been, you know, weaving past the traffic, doing a little bit on the dual carriageway, and what I have noticed, and I know I said it right at the beginning and I think I mentioned it a couple other times, is just how easy this bike is to ride. I think if you were, you know, getting your first big bike or something and you got on something like this, you just find it so unintimidating. Some of that's because it's just not quick, obviously. I mean, it's for compared to a lot of bikes that have 100 plus horsepower, this is never going to be beating them in a race, but it's quick enough and it's just really fun to ride. You know, you don't even have to think about it as much. I think just to sit here and potter along, you know, just bumble up and down through the gears, which for me at least, that's really what this bike is for, and I think it does that extremely well. Yeah, really impressed. You know, I'd seen this bike quite a few times at shows, and you never really know when you've not seen a real one, and certainly when you haven't ridden it. But to be able to get out today and ride one, even though I could have picked a warmer day, this has actually been a huge amount of fun. So here we go. I'm back at the dealer, and yeah, it's been really cold out there today. The air conditioning on this bike is excellent, even if it is freezing. Could really have done with the heated seats, maybe some heated hand grips, they would have all helped. But having said that, I've had a really fun time. You know, the bike is better than I thought it would be, particularly things like I wasn't sure how this engine was actually going to be. Comparing it to, say, the 600cc single on my CCM, this is very, very refined. It's very, very smooth. So yeah, I've been really, really impressed by that. Just the handling and everything else, that I think, you know, how this bike is supposed to behave, it does all of that extremely well. So right, here we go. So I'll record some final thoughts and then I think I am all done.
So that was it, all done, back here at Clay Cross Kawasaki. I've really enjoyed taking this BSA Gold Star out today. I must admit, I was a bit, you know, you see them on a stand, you see a lot of the rumours, you see the people who are always thinking back to the legacy and what the old ones were like. And I've ridden the Royal Enfield Intercept 650, which I know this isn't, but it's certainly, I think, what it's aimed at. And I think this is really good. I was blown away by the engine. I thought it was going to be a very lumpy, sort of thudding along big single. And it's not, it's really smooth. I mean, like, surprisingly smooth, more smooth than I thought it could be, especially when I compare it to something like my CCM Spitfire. The gearbox is just a peach. Okay, it's only got 5 gears, but I didn't miss the 6th, and it just clicks in and out of every gear. The clutch is really light, all that's good. I thought the clocks were excellent, just the fit and finish on what's the end bike looks really good. Again, the switch gear as well is all easy to find, not once did I was like reaching around trying to find the indicator. If I'm going to be picky, there's a few things which I thought could have been done better. So I think the headlamp, just with the regular bulb, filament bulb, both for the main light and for the running light. In this day and age, I think it's no more expensive really to put LEDs on, unless it's only done for the look. But putting something on for the look when it's not as bright as a headlamp could be, I think it's a bit of a shame. I think the mirrors look a lot like the mirrors that were on my Royal Enfield Scram, a bit low budget, but again, mirrors are easily replaced. I'm sure there'll be some nice looking and slightly impractical bar end mirrors that come with it. The seat was very comfortable. I didn't really notice it at all as I was riding around. I only did about 40 miles, which was out for about an hour. And yeah, you notice seats when they don't work. But yeah, the seat was fine, the riding position was really comfortable, never really had a problem with that. I was delighted at just how well it went at 70 miles an hour. You know, I did wonder whether I'd sort of be hanging on or just, you know, really feel like it was being stretched, but you know, it's a 650. It easily does 70. I'm sure you could wind it up way above that. I did see the speedo goes to 130. Not sure if you get all the way up there, but certainly at 70 miles an hour, it was, you know, had more than enough left in the tank just to keep going. Pretty simple from an electrics perspective. I believe it does have ABS. The clocks are very clear. It's only got 3 things you can click through on the info button, so from the mileometer and then 2 separate trip meters. I was kind of missing a clock, which sounds like a bit of an odd thing. I've got used to having clocks on bikes, but clearly not here. Really nice, very quiet, extremely quiet. I'm sure there'll be some exhausts that come out that give it a bit more noise for those that like those sorts of things. But yeah, overall, really pleased with the fit and finish on this. I think they're going to do really well. So if you have a BSA dealer somewhere near you, and that probably means you're in the UK, I don't believe they're distributing them internationally yet. But yeah, go down, see if you can have a go on one, see if you can try it out and see what you think. I genuinely think you will be blown away. What I could say is don't go out on a day like this when it's close to freezing or below freezing, because it is just way too cold. I missed having a heated seat and heated grips. Not that I have a heated seat on any of my other bikes, but then again, maybe I wouldn't choose to go out if there was snow on the road on any of those bikes. So that's it. That's my look at the new BSA Gold Star for 2023. I thought it was great. I just wish I'd done it on a warmer day. So thanks for watching. If it's been interesting and useful, please check out my other content, and maybe I'll see you next time.